Namaste, welcome everyone. Welcome back to this leadership series that we're doing with our own founder, Dr. Partha S Ghosh at the Partha Ghosh Academy of Leadership here at IIT Kharagpur. And welcome back, sir. Thank you very much for spending time with us in developing this series of lectures that we're doing on leadership.
Thank you. Thank you. It's always a pleasure
Thank you, sir.
to exchange thoughts with you.
The pleasure is ours, sir. Sir, today we want to explore a little different topic and we want to focus upon leadership education and understand what kind of leadership education can be given and are available, which are given to, I would say, potential leaders or people at high designations or higher level management in an organization. However, the first question that comes to my mind when we talk of this is, can people who are in powerful positions, or I would say more senior positions in any organizations, be trained to become leaders, or it just comes out naturally to them, sir?
I really believe, that every individual could go through a development process. So, in that spirit, I do think leadership qualities could be developed, nurtured in individuals. And I also believe in one very fundamental principle that everyone is born with these fundamental traits of leadership. But most of the time, they remain covered. Sometimes, when people are positioned in a special situation, sometimes adversarial, sometimes opportunistic, they get a chance to express their leadership qualities. Some don't, some don't. But what I firmly believe that if someone goes through a program in a very conscious way, I want to uncover those qualities in me. And the person who's engaged in this process of helping that individual uncover those traits with a true, genuine caring, I think I have personally seen how people have developed to become great leaders. As you know, I've conducted perhaps 200 leadership workshops across the world, from the C level to emerging leaders. And I myself was surprised how through such programs, people's leadership qualities have gotten expressed, has become sharper, has become significantly more enlightening, and in the process, their effectiveness to influence positive outcomes in society have been significantly advanced.
Wow. So when we say this, development which the senior people go through in their career, or when we ask them to take this leadership course, what are the benefits you see when you have done these programs with them? What are the benefits and outcomes which these individuals have experienced in their personal and professional life by taking these leadership courses that we talk of, sir?
I really believe, again, based on my very personal observations, particularly those individuals I had the privilege to work with in developing their leadership qualities, the benefits are numerous and actually multidimensional. But if I step back and think about it, one of the most fundamental ones are increased self awareness. These leadership programs have helped individuals to understand their inner strengths, heightened sense of self awareness, which enables people to know how they could exercise their inner conscience, their inner strengths to effect positive changes in the environment they work. And that could be in the spirit of mentoring, in the spirit of decision making, in the spirit of how they guide others. So that's point number one, increase self awareness. Number two, more advanced, if you will, capability to become strategic.
All right.
The strategic thinking capability of the individual is significantly enhanced. His or her ability to see the big picture and see the organization he or she represents, how that could be guided to take advantage of the big picture, the big trends. That's
Sure.
the second. Third, I would say improved decision making, connected with the point number two,
Hmm.
that you develop the confidence to structure different alternatives and then be able to choose the alternatives in a significantly, I would say, analytically sound, confident fashion. Fourth, I would say, which is again connected with one, two, and three, improved communication skills. That you are not only communicating with words, you're communicating with persona. You're communicating with your eyes, you're communicating with your silence. With your silence, your active listening capability, that gets significantly enhanced. And then the other part, I particularly leadership programs that I organize, I help leaders to be able to strike enlightened synergies between various conflicting point of views. Now, typical business schools teach conflict management. So
Yes.
they take conflict for granted and talk about, okay, we have to manage, great leaders manage conflict. But I see it differently because I bring the Vedic philosophy with the Western philosophy. I see the world would have different ideas. A good leaders know how to integrate them together. They don't reject ideas. They do not uh, entertain conflicts. They proactively avoid conflicts by bringing conflicting ideas into a beautiful synergy, an enlightened synergy. So that's one thing I'm particularly proud of what I do. But apart from that, I think I've seen in the process the leadership presence or leadership charisma, the presence of an individual significantly gets enhanced because your self confidence is much more, your self insecurity is much less. Because a lot of us suffer from insecurity. And when we suffer from insecurity, we often do artificial things. But a leader is calm, is confident, and that evolves as a charisma, which I call the leadership charisma, leadership presence. And that presence helps you to connect with people, and in the process, you can make big changes. So these are the benefits, Pranav, that I have personally observed in individuals who have gone through a 5 day program. But not that I see the change after 5 days, but when I meet them after 5 months, after 5 years, I say they have become fundamentally a different personality than when I met them before the program that I conducted with them.
Sure, so that's amazing. In fact, one of the key points which I picked up here and really found it unique in your, the answer which you shared was that communicating with silence. At times, not giving an answer by itself is an answer, or not saying anything by itself says a lot of things. So that's subtle things which usually leaders or people, I would say people in senior positions at times miss out in their communication skills as well. So a very important point you put across there. But so when leaders, I mean, potential leaders, I would say, or the upcoming leaders, people in senior positions who are looking at taking these leadership programs, what are the factors they should consider? Which program they should go for? How they should select the program they need to go for? So, are there any criteria you would suggest for that?
Definitely, it's very important that individuals who are coming to the leadership program, they first know why are they coming to the program? What is their personal development goal? And they have to be extremely honest about it. That these are the areas where I want to personally develop myself. So that's the first requirement, that you have to have a clear vision of how you want to develop, quote unquote, your leadership skills. It could be strategic thinking, it could be communication skills, better understanding of your inner voice, better ability to be listening capability, whatever they may be, you should be very clear. Second, once you know what your goals are, you are focused on the content of a program. That some leadership programs may be more tilted towards Western style of leadership training, which is communication, conflict management, sometimes little bit of strategic decision making, systems thinking, which are all important. But some other programs that we do, as your academy does, not only focuses on the Cartesian side of leadership development, which is the decision sciences, but the softer sides, ethics, self awareness, understanding your inner voice, being able to listen to your inner thoughts, intuitive capability. So I think once you know what I want to develop, analyzing the course content is extremely important. That does it fit with the goals that you have? The third I would call the delivery format. I do not believe leadership programs is all about professors or teachers or great leaders coming and giving a talk. Now, we can invite some leaders to come and give a talk, but it has to be followed by some self reflection exercises. So, the programs that I have conducted, I always have hardcore self reflection exercises through which the individuals who come to the programs would connect with some of the fundamental thoughts that I'm sharing during the classroom sessions. Then, of course, I would say the duration and time of content. The leaders are very busy. If they go out for 5 days retreat, though they have been able to carve out the 5 days, but if they're receiving the calls, they're worrying about what's happening in my office, then you are not there. You are there physically, but mind is somewhere else. So being very honest about that, look, I can carve out 3 days or 2.5 days or 1.5 days. But those 1.5 days, I'm totally committed to nothing else but my own inner self, understanding inner self, understanding the concepts of leadership, meeting with the colleagues who have come there to get a network effect and learn from each other. So choosing the time and the duration of the program is very important. Now, if I can carve out 5 days, fine, but it has to be honest dedication of 5 days and accordingly choose the program. And the fifth point, which is important, what I call some people use the word instructor, but I do not look at people who help nurturing of leaders as instructors, but facilitators, people who come there to uncover the qualities already within the person who's coming to the leadership program. So, expertise of that person, his or her experience, what kind of environment he or she has been exposed to. If I've only grown up in New England and I versus someone who's grown up in United States, Europe, India, Japan, China, Southeast Asia, he or she brings a different kind of perspective. So I would always assess that who are the people who are going to run these workshops, run these leadership programs, and accordingly I will choose. Then, of course, you want to be careful about the reputation of the institutes which are offered in the leadership program, what kind of networking opportunities you might have, what
Mhm.
kind of other people are joining. And then the other point which I give tremendous importance, what I will call the post experience support. Once you've gone through that experience,
Mhm.
what is the support you're receiving from the facilitators after I've gone through that program or someone has gone through that program?
Sure.
I think it's very important. And all the leadership programs that I organize, I always tell the participants, I'm available. Please call me whenever you need me just to brainstorm an idea.
Makes
And
sense.
that
Makes
works beautifully. So these are the factors I will consider if I were picking up a program for leadership development for myself.
Sure. So wonderful. You really explained us small nitty-gritties of selecting a program. And, I personally have seen this that, when people go through programs, they might just look at the brand or they might just look at the program. They might just look at the price tag at times and just join the program rather than looking into what fits best for them, looking at their schedule, availability, the kind of content work they want, or the kind of delivery they are comfortable with in this case. So really helpful in terms of putting these points down and making selecting a program, I would say, which is here. So, but when it comes to the market, when we look at the leadership development industry in particular, there are numerous different programs which are there. Would you be, able to give us an idea on types of programs, how people run? Because you mentioned somewhere where you said a 5 days boot camp, and then there are different formats which are there. But can you give us a little idea in how is the industry structured to offer program?
Hmm. The leadership development as a subject has become, in, I would say, very important in the last decade or so. Though I've been on this subject for almost 3 decades, but I must say, in the last 10, maybe 15 years, people have been talking about leadership development. And you're right, maybe the term is industry. There are indeed all kinds of leadership development programs, all kinds. And I don't want to make judgments on any one of them because people are doing that, they're running the program. Obviously, they put in their best efforts, and I would like to say honest efforts to help people develop their leadership qualities. But let's see what are the different kinds. One I have seen typical in-person workshops or seminars where people come in from different parts of the world, spend 3 days coming from the same level, say senior executives, C-level executives, or mid-level executives. That's one format. These days, or I would say last 5, 6 years, particularly post-COVID, I've seen growth of a lot of online
Mhm.
courses
Yes.
on Zoom. They were done quite well. In fact, I've done some online courses, and maybe I was not 100% as effective I would be if I was in person, but it was close to 95, 90%. As long as I can design online workshops which are a bit different in nature than in-person classes.
Sure.
Then there's some hybrid courses, hybrid, some online, some in person,
Mm.
some offline. So people begin the program online, maybe after 3 days
Yes.
online, maybe after a week of reflection, we a group meets somewhere in the world. So if
Yes.
we're running a global program, we can say, okay, we'll meet in Paris.
Mm.
The group comes together, meets 2 days, and then goes back for online program. I've done those. That could be very, very interesting.
Mhm.
And then there's the classic Harvard Business School style, Sloan School of Management style. They organize executive development programs. But those are not really, to be honest with you, Pranav, I look at them as extension of management programs, though they call it leadership,
Mhm.
because management schools are schools of management.
Yes.
Leadership is basically a very different type of a concept.
True.
You're managing, you're exploring, you're motivating, you're not ordering, you're influencing change without titles. But management is about gaining titles, becoming a boss, command and control structure. But there are some leadership development programs in management schools. There's a one. And then we lately, and I've played such roles, what I will call coaching and mentoring programs,
Mhm.
where a leader would basically say that, look, Partha, could you spend some time with me? I'm having these kind of difficulties with my next level. Once a month, could we meet for an hour? And there are such individuals who are
Mhm.
offering coaching and mentoring programs, but it's very, very important whoever wants to play the coach or mentor role, they're genuinely honest about it.
True.
They genuinely could bring a breadth of experience so that they could truly serve the individual that is asking for that kind of help.
Yes.
And then, of course, the customized corporate training. That's one thing I would like to see your academy develops, that a company uh, reaches out to the Academy of Leadership and says, we have a problem, we want to develop leaders. You do
Mhm.
not just jump into it. You sit down with the company for a month to understand what do they need. And then you design the program
Wow.
specific
Customized for.
company
Mm.
and develop that. So they are also there, which I would call customized corporate leadership training programs. I've done a few of them, but not as much as I would like to do.
Sure. So that's amazing because you've taken us to a wide range, starting from an online program to offline programs to somewhere where it
I
is hybrid, and then also customized programs which are created for a specific need, and then also the individual, which I am personally a fan of, or probably I feel it suits me the best, is the one-on-one. In the Indian context, as we say, the Guru Shishya Parampara, where the knowledge has been transferred from one person to the other person directly in that case, which is all on in the today's term we might call it mentoring, coaching, a terminology to it. So,
and power of that can never be replaced. That's the most powerful way I believe in it, where you sit down with your guru, but you
yes,
have to really believe in he or she being your guru, and
Shraddhavan.
has to truly dedicate 100%
Yes.
to his or her disciple, if you like, use the word guru shishya, but disciple as a student, disciple as a friend, partner, whichever way you define.
Mhm.
Besides, I have always looked at, when I played that role in the Western world, I looked at them as my partners. I have a role to play. I play that role of mentoring, but at the same time, I'm learning that the individual is opening up
Mhm.
his mind or her mind to me to see
Yes.
how he could play a more important role in society. So it
Yes.
is a partnering role.
Absolutely.
Enlightened synergy is the word that I always use.
Wow, enlightened synergy. In fact, there is a sutra which says Shraddhavan labhate gaya, which means Shraddha has been, as you said, someone who has faith in the other person, completely
Absolutely.
dedicated to the guru, the teacher there, is the one who will gain knowledge in the right sense, in the right manner, uh,
Absolutely.
uh, which is there. So,
What
excellent.
I find fascinating, Pranav, that the Indian philosophy, the Upanishads, the Gita, the Vedas have laid it out all. It was
Yes,
there 5,000 years ago. And what I feel very good and feel a bit envious towards you is that you have now the opportunity to revive that
sure,
in the context of the modern world, find out how the Western thoughts could be integrated with Vedic thoughts to
sure.
develop what we are calling the Partha S Ghosh Academy of Leadership. And the world really needs it.
Absolutely. In fact, sir, I was putting it into a three C OK model, as I always say. The three C's is the one which you mentioned, which is the consulting model, where we can actually someone goes to the company, sits in the company, understands the company, and consults the company in that. So the first is C is consulting. Second C is courses. So we design courses where we run courses, can be online, offline, hybrid in that context, which is there. So the courses run for a group of students in that case. And the third C is coaching, where the coaching is one-on-one to an individual, which is there. And then there comes an OK model as well, which O would be mean offsites, where we take people away from their work. As you mentioned, people are on their mobile phones, they are just having some emails to be answered, or the boss walks in, or the subordinate walks in and asks for help. So the distraction is so much. So you take them away from that environment and to an offsite. So the O comes in there, and the key is usually the keynote method, where you're just giving a speech for a short time. So these are the three COKs which can
And
be.
an inspirational speech. That could make a difference.
Yes, the
A
keynote.
good
Yes.
speech. I once remember I delivered a speech. Where was it? Either it was in London or Paris, sometime back. And it was on leadership. After 2 years, people told me, Arthur, because of that speech you delivered, I've written down this quote to you, and that has changed the way I have run my organization. That was indeed touching. So, indeed, we have to be very responsible that when I get a chance to speak,
Sure.
it's very important to feel that every word that I'm using, I can fully support, I take full responsibility because you do not know how those sound bites and the vibrations through the air would hit the ears of a person and then get embedded in the heart. You do not know, Pranav. And we have to be very responsible.
True.
And I personally believe great leaders take that responsibility, every word they use. And that's why I always also believe the words that do not use silence, the calming silence itself could create some kind of vibration
Yes.
in the individuals who are in front of you.
The non-verbal communication, as you said, sir, in the beginning. So two more questions. One, I would like to understand on evaluation, and other is I would like to understand from you about some of the present day leaders, how and what kind of leadership training, coaching could they take in their careers, in their lives. But starting with first is evaluations. When we take such programs and leadership programs from an individual perspective, also from a group or a company perspective, how do we do post evaluation? Because there are subtler, I would say, sciences which are there, and the effect can be at times long drawn, which can maybe a year, 2 year, or 3 years. The effects can come in later. So, how do we calculate or evaluate? I wouldn't say the ROI in this case, but I would say the effectiveness which is there in an individual. How do we measure that and evaluate it, sir?
See, that's a very good question. If we take it too much of a Cartesian approach in measuring the effectiveness of a leadership program,
Mm.
I think we defeat the purpose. Because Cartesian approach, by definition, means it has to be very measurable,
Sure.
and we becomes too conscious about what we are measuring, and in the process, the space between what you cannot measure gets lost, and sometimes what you cannot measure has got more importance in terms of your ability to influence.
Sure.
So we have to recognize there's the hard side and the soft side in leadership development. So first thing I often particularly put tremendous emphasis to is what I will call self-development, self-assessment. So since I talk about self-development is self-assessment, and what does it mean? I often give a spider chart to people before they come to the program and says, think of the leader that you value the most. Think of that leader. Then define uh, what are the 7 dimensions of that leadership personality you admire the most. And make sure the 7 dimensions are mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive in your mind.
Mhm.
So let's say say Swami Vivekananda
Sure.
is my hero. So then I have to define what are the dimensions of Swamiji I really respect. His
Mhm.
communication capability,
Mhm.
his ability to be selfless, his ability to move around the world with full confidence, his ability to convert complex subjects of Vedas into simple words,
Wow.
so on and so forth.
Mm.
Once you have defined those dimensions,
Mm.
then I ask if in each of the dimensions, the leader that I admire scores 10 out of 10, how do I put myself around? So I may score 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10, 5 out of 10. And then you have gone through the leadership program, that you have done the scoring at the beginning. You've gone through the program, and then maybe after 5 months, you do the same plotting. Not only you ask your colleagues to do the plotting as they did before you started the program. That is
Sure.
the most powerful way you could do the self-assessment.
Mhm.
The other thing typically I encourage that look, before you come to the program, take some feedback from your peers and your juniors, how they say view you as a leader, and give them the criteria you consider important. Let them write it down. Let
Sure.
them out of 5 out of 10. Then after you've gone through the leadership program, not right after the next week, but after several months, you ask them to do the same thing, and you will see how the needle is shifting. Then, of course, there's famous 360-degree evaluation. There's some standard evaluation methods available. You can use them. The most powerful one is sometimes directly talking to people. Directly, not even survey, just see that Pranav, have you seen some development in me after I've gone through the leadership program? Am I engaging with people in a significantly more compelling fashion? Do people find me more inspiring today vis-a-vis I was 6 months ago? And having really open chat. So this is what I would say, that leadership has got a lot of soft side, the nonverbal side, the communication side, the inspirational side, the motivational side, the other point, coaching and mentoring side. They cannot be all rated on a scale of 10. But people can give you feedback that how I appear as a mentor today than I was, say, 1 year ago.
Sure. So that's really insightful. And the spider web which you spoke of, where we actually plot the qualities of the, I would say, our role model leader somewhere, and then like whom we would like to become, and then try and put ourselves as a comparative analysis to that, where do I stand as compared to the someone whom I aspire to be like, and then try and work on those gaps there and see ourselves over a period of time, not only our own but also taking feedbacks from others, in case what do they see in us, so we have the inside out and the outside in, both views coming in that case. So that would really be effective, I feel. And so amazing. So that's an excellent one. I would say excellent evaluation model in that case, because there are a lot of psychometric tests available in the market, and I find some or the other person comes up with a new PhD and says, I have developed a new psychometric analysis where you answer certain questions, one out of the four, and based on that they give you marks, and based on the marks that come out, I mean, yes, they do give us some kind of good.
And they said, this is your leadership style. If you are in this corner, this is who you are.
Yes,
Yeah, I mean, I would not reject them, but this only gives you a partial,
partial thing. Yes,
maybe necessary, but definitely not sufficient.
yes, true.
There are such tools available, and my advice would be for the individual to see which tool he or she feels most comfortable with.
Yes.
Once you have to feel comfortable, not the instructor or the facilitator who's running the leadership course. I
True.
always say that do the evaluation yourself because it is all about you. The
Sure.
role of facilitator is to help the emergence of a new personality.
Sure. So when it comes to modern day leaders in today's time in particular, when we talk of there is a lack of leadership which we see in all aspects, which is going around. And I mean, whether it is in terms of technology and business, or whether it is in terms of politics and economics, say even in terms of community and social services, that there is some or the other crisis which we see, whether it is lack of ethics, lack of principle in people, or I would say lack of harmony and coexistence, which people fail to see, which is around. However, about some of the leaders from the global perspective, would you like to talk about in terms of what kind of training that, or what kind of, I would say, not grooming is the right word, but what kind of, I would say, exposure they need to be given in relation to leadership development?
Very good question. In our modern times, let's think of people who have really shaped this world as we live today. And I think to me, 5 or 6 names comes to my mind, which all of you are familiar with. When I was in my 20s and 30s, my contemporaries were people like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. We grew up together. And I had the privilege to meet them also in California a long time ago in the 1980s. Then came people like Page and Green, who defined Google. And then came individuals like Mark Zuckerberg, who defined Facebook, and Elon Musk, who literally transforming the world of energy, the world of transportation, world of space travel, neural links, you name it. Now, I think, I don't know, I mean, they are leaders. They have definitely explored new boundaries. But if you ask me, are there development opportunities for them? My answer is yes, naturally. Because when they started, they worked within a certain boundary conditions, the scope of their influence was limited and they gradually expanded. Today, Facebook has perhaps 4 billion people who are the members of Facebook family. 4 billion,
Yes.
called metaverse. So obviously that expansion and reach of a person like Mark Zuckerberg has increased. So the big question, the leader that he used to be 10 years ago, 15 years ago when he founded the company, and the leader that is today, will the same formula work? The answer is no. So he has to also develop in that context his influence on the world has increased. The world has become more complex. Today, people talking about fake news, people talking about artificial intelligence being created to create personalities in your voice, so no one knows whether I'm talking to Pranav Patel or I'm talking to a fake Pranav Patel. I don't know. So, in this kind of situation, leaders have to do, people like Elon Musk have to do a significantly more self reflection. The responsibility that lies with them to shape what I'm calling enlightened society. Now, if Elon Musk asked me, Partha, develop a leadership program for me, I'm taking a hypothetical case. Most probably he'll not ask me, but he could. I don't rule out any
Very likely
possibility.
as well, sir.
He could. What would I train? I personally feel a person like Elon Musk has reached a point when he has to connect with the higher level powers in a significantly more structured fashion. I think he's connected with higher level powers, but he has to really connect because he is playing a very important role in shaping the future world. So his ability to meditate, his ability to stay detached emotionally with any of their businesses, but feel fully committed to convert them into forces which will benefit society, and being able to inspire thousands of people to join him in making this movement successful needs a special kind of spirituality, almost godlike personality. So that's what Elon Musk has to work towards. So his program would be in my uh, framework that we have 3PI, much more on the two eyes, inner conscience and interconnectedness, interconnected with his inner universe with the bigger universe outside. I think, and that comes from the practice of renunciation, which Gita talks about, that you renounce yourself from the outcome, but you fully engage with the process and engage not only you, but the teams who are working on each of the movements. I think similar would be my advice for Mark Zuckerberg. The other person I very much admire is Mark Benioff, who is the founder of a company called Salesforce. He looked to me, he appears very spiritually advanced, but there I would ask him, how could he take his own personality and see how he could create similar personalities in the San Francisco area, so that these people who are working with such powerful technologies could bring a positive change to society.
Wonderful, sir. I mean, all three you spoke of are changing the world and have changed the world, in fact, already, I would say, in the way we look at things around us. Uh, but these are people who are global, and when I'm sitting here in IIT Kharagpur in India, I do have a little self-interest. But I would ask, so what about some of the leaders in India? And I would say in India, there are different set of leaders. There are leaders with different style in the way they manage their businesses as well. So, how would you give some advice in terms of what kind of development or training, coaching would these leaders need in India, particularly in the present day scenario?
India is a very interesting country. I mean, when you think of the business leaders, we are talking about business leaders. There are, when I spoke about Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, they're all coming from the information technology space. Interesting enough. And that space, as you could see, if you have a good idea, you can quickly scale and become important personalities. And we have seen that in India in a person like Narayan Murthy, in a person like Asim Premji. And I had the fortune to be very quite close to them. I had meetings with them. I mean, once in 2 years, sometimes very frequently meet them in the airport, meet them in Boston. I met Asim Premji once in the London Heathrow airport, and we chit chat here and there, apart from meeting in his office. So I think uh, these leaders, particularly when I look at the people coming from the information technology space, I have tremendous admiration for them. They have, created global companies, Wipro and Infosys. They have been able to bring together people from all over the world to drive the movement. And both of them are very humble, and definitely they've done a great job in building the companies. But if I have to give them advice as to what is the next stage leadership challenge, I would like to see both Narayan Murthy and Asim Premji gets involved with academic leadership. But I would like to see we give and birth to and nurture many such leaders as Azim Premji and Narayan Murthy, because there is a degree of selflessness in them, there's a high degree of humility, yet a very high sense of self confidence, and they're very deeply rooted in their philosophical ethos, both of them. And there are many others. I have tremendous admiration for Ratan Tata also, whom also have interacted with quite a lot. Actually, my first interaction with Ratan happened in Boston in 1976 when he was an AMP student at Harvard. I was an MBA student between Harvard and Sloan School. That's when we first met, and we have maintained our relationship since then. But then there's another kind of leaders whom people talk about, people like the Ambanis, the Adanis, who are coming from more, not necessarily based on their own intellectual uh, capability which design the product, but their intellectual capability to create business models
Mhm, mhm,
where they could, or I would say trading models through
mhm.
which they have created large scale industries.
Yes.
It's very different. There,
Yes.
I see in their leadership style more the classic military model, the command and control,
Sure.
sure, which has worked. They have built up various industries, and
Mhm.
every leaders have their different styles. And one, I cannot say this is better than the other. But if
Oh,
I have to talk to Mukesh,
mm.
Mukesh also, fortunately, I have many interactions. I've never met Mr. Adani,
All right.
but based on what I've read about him, I would like them to now start focusing from the quote unquote the command and control structure to developing more inspirational models so they could inspire more individuals who could create similar empires or at least take the empire and give it a global stature. So that would be my very honest reflection on the very difficult question that you raised. But I care about all of them. Fortunately, I know about them, and I would really want to see them successful. And I think, Pranav, I'm giving you a challenge. Get them involved in the academic leadership movement that you have
Sure.
launched.
Sure, sir. Definitely will want them to get involved because these are accomplished leaders. I would put somewhere or other because they have achieved at least whatever the style, methods, I mean, orientation they have had, but they have really had great achievements in life, and would be a pleasure to have them with us to develop a leadership academy that we are doing. So this is a
There's a
little
person's name I want to share with you, which I
addition.
have tremendous admiration. Just but I didn't want to forget about him because when I was about to answer that, when you asked the question, leaders in the Indian context,
Mhm.
Deepak Parekh.
Yes.
Deepak Parekh, the way he shaped HDFC, and if you have not met him, try to meet him. He's one of the most humble individuals. He knows how to inspire people.
Mm,
He takes full responsibility of what he commits to
mhm.
and fully honors his commitment.
Sure.
So Deepak Parekh is another individual you may want to get him involved in the Partha Ghosh Academy of Leadership. Again, he's a good friend. If you could reach out to him, I think uh, it would be a service to the nation because we have to project such leaders so that we could create the next generation of super leaders.
Wow, so definitely, yes, he is a legend in the banking world and has created one of the most powerful and the biggest private banking organization in this country. So these are people who are established already, and I would say somewhere they have already achieved success and have now, I would say, moved into more of a mentoring and a coaching role. However, sir, when it comes to leaders who are upcoming leaders, and in India, we have a strong culture growing for something called as the startups or something where we talk of people taking up entrepreneurship as a career rather than seeking job and be job providers than be job seekers. Now, this kind of aspiring leaders, I would call them people who are aspiring to be leaders in the future. What kind of, I would say, orientation or grooming or training you would suggest for them?
I think three vectors come to my mind
Mm,
about, I've not met them, but out of my affection and my desire to see them successful, knowing the Indian context and knowing what's going on in the world, I think that the challenge would be in the Indian context when an individual is growing up. There's an automatic force at work to make the individual short-term oriented, looking for quick gains,
mm,
looking for quick fame, looking for name, and in the process, I feel they miss out on the long term. So I think one area of focus would be how to cultivate in such leaders a significant more confidence in their inner conscience and develop their ability to play the long game with a strategic mindset, so much so that they could give birth to global brand names. Keep in mind, we have not given birth to any global brand name today in the B2C space from India as yet, though we have seen about 15 or 20 of them come out from China in the last 10 or 15 years,
yes.
100 from Japan within a span of 15 years between 1960 and 1975. So that would be one, that being able to play the long game, though there are a lot of forces at work in the ecosystem, which is pushing them to play the short game, because everyone is in that short term mentality. The second one is partly the culture in India, which is a bit hierarchical. A boss is a boss. I think to move from that boss command and control structure to more of a networking camaraderie structure that we are together playing in the game. I once had the privilege to meet Mr. Morita in his factory, and I was amazed. He's the founder of Sony. That time he was 55 or 58 years old. Already his company is about $50 billion. But I met him in a factory where he was literally holding welding on a printed circuit board, working on I think, a circuit with some other engineers and workers around him. He literally looked like a worker on the floor. He was wearing the
Wow.
jumpsuit, and I've seen many such founders of companies in Japan, in US, in Europe, where the person is in it with his own hands and head and heart at work. The three H's are working together. In India, the H's are disconnected. People who are the head, they are the brain. People who are working with the hand, they're only using the hand. And the heart is the heart of the people who are put in the capital.
Mm,
But I think we have to bring the three H's together. That is the second challenge of emerging leaders. And the third challenge connected with it is more focus on human development of the people, development of the people, not just send them to business school or some advanced management training programs. Those are okay, or come to the academy of leadership, but focus on the spiritual development of the individual. So the charisma of the people in the company is attractive to the ecosystem that they're serving. Today, businesses do not enjoy as yet in India a positive reputation. People feel, they make money unfairly. That's the unfortunate image. But we have to change that image. The younger people have to look at, make people believe that the businesses are to serve society, to serve customer, to provide solution to the problems that society has to deal with. So these are the three uh, fundamental requirements, I believe, which again the Academy of Leadership should focus on to help the budding entrepreneurs. They're great, they're entrepreneurs, but there's no limit to greatness. There's always room at the top, and we want to explore the higher level boundaries so that they could really create world class organizations.
Wow, so amazing. I take these 3 points, three vectors as you mentioned. Long-term approach, alignment of the three H, the head, heart, and the hand, which is there. And the third one is development of the human capital, as we would say, not the human resource. I am very conscious about using the word human capital, or because as you mentioned rightly, that people use them as resources and just to make their gains and then not look at their development in that role. So rather than that, we should treat them as assets. So human asset is what we
The
would say.
human capital, when I say development, so glad that you pointed out, I really mean the development of the spiritual, intellectual, and physical capital of the individual.
All right.
Indians are physically weak. I would like to see there's an exercise program in every company. There's a diet program. Just physically, we have to be strong and alert.
Mm-hmm.
Spiritually advanced, and Vedas are there. There has to be some program that, and of course, intellectual ferment is there. Health, as they say, being fearless in your thought process. Going back to
Yes.
Tagore, we
Yes.
discussed earlier.
Yes. Also, that's amazing. Really gives an great in-depth input into how a program should be selected, what kind of program people should take, what are the different options available in the market in terms of looking at leadership development, why leadership development is important, and in what manner evaluation needs to be done when you're taking up a leadership development program as well. So that really is a very insightful talk here with you today on this particular topic, and really glad to have done this particular session with you to discuss about leadership programs and education in particular, sir. So thank you very much. We still look forward to a lot more because I feel this can be endless. The amount of wisdom which we are gaining from your expertise, your experience, and your I would say exposure which you have had, and with your heartful willingness to share it with us is really very grateful, and I would say it's enriching for us in that manner, sir. So thank you very much for this time that you spend with us. Looking forward to do some more such topic discussions with you in the future, sir.
Thank you very much. Some closing comments, if you may permit me.
Please, sir, with pleasure.
Firstly, I consider it my privilege that I have the opportunity to talk about a very complex but important subject of leadership. You know, and I personally feel that leadership is increasingly becoming an important, uh, I think the word that I will use, a force that we have to cultivate in every society
Mhm.
to create an ethical way to take our civilization forward in harmony with each other,
Mhm.
in harmony with nature, with the harmony with the universe, and most importantly, harmony between communities and nations. As you know, these harmonies are broken. there's no harmony. Disharmony between individuals and nature, between each other, between nations, between regions, between ideas, between faiths, between races, and between religions. So obviously that we need to create a movement
Yes.
that is genuine,
Mhm.
that cultivates a new kind of leaders. So I'm so glad that we have began this discussion, and hopefully, as you rightly pointed out, this discussion should continue and go perhaps wider and deeper so that we could affect the change that the whole society is hungry of.
Looking forward to that kind of an I would say enriched discussion going ahead as well. So thank you very much for sharing this with us. It's very, very valuable and precious. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. See you again. Namaskar.